Welcome everyone to the latest edition of IT Breaking News here live on this channel, trying as promised to do more regular useful content here. Back to security issues. So Google's Project Zero here has an absolutely amazing dive into the NSO zero-click iMessage exploit from September. That was here for iOS 14.8 CVE 2021-30-860. And so what's going on in this? And I wanted to share this to showcast how complex and modern remote code execution is executed, and also what effort goes into. And like you would generally think nobody would do, or is anyway crazy. So NSO Group, for those who don't know, is one of the highest profile providers of access as a service selling packages, hacking solutions. Also, yeah, 2021, right? Access as a service. You can't make this stuff up, aka James Bond movie wise. Solution which enable nations, state actors without a homegrown offensive cyber capability to pay to play, pay to hack your citizens' devices, right? And so this was a zero-click, meaning the user didn't even have to click this, right? Like iMessage-based targeting. In this case here, earlier this year, Citizen Lab managed to capture NSO iMessage-based zero-click exploit being used to target Saudi activists, so real stuff from the real world. And so zero-click means the user doesn't need to click or touch, and for example, by automatically what was it, autorun.inf in DOS-based Windows times, but of course here image loading and stuff. And so what they found here is absolutely bonkers and insane. So you get some text message, also you think, and also here 2021, right? Your phone's like hacked with freaking messages. And here wired trick, initial entry point for the Pegasus on iPhone is iMessage, displaying here some text and image. And so how this works is, and I quickly go over that, otherwise it would take an hour or so. I only wanted to outline the most bizarre thing about this. So this basically an image like a GIF, but it's not a GIF, it's like basically fake.gif, but internally it's a PDF, as so often, right? It doesn't need to be a GIF just because the final extension is GIF or PDF. So usually software doesn't even, for example, our software, our libraries do not even rely on they basically ignore the file extension because now YOLO, whatever, file extension, basically zero point of looking into that. And that's also what's happening here, right? This fake GIF is then processed by Core Graphics PDF parser because it's PDF. And with all the security vulnerabilities of the last decade already fixed and so on, it's of course increasingly difficult to hack this, right? So they turned here to JBIG2 and black and white image coding scheme. ISO standard, also used in PDF and other devices and file formats like this. It's a little bit pointless in my opinion. It's like, yeah, some copy machine, this image is stupid in my opinion, because this is also widely used for highly compressed PDFs. So yeah, what is the point of showing some bloody copy machine? But anyway, so JPEG2 is rather complex. I implemented this once myself. Yeah, not the easiest thing to implement with all the complexities because it's doing quite advanced substitution. For example, effectively coding a text document here with recurring letters. It's not really OCR. Some people always say OCR, but no, this is not OCR. This is just image pattern matching. It's a far cry from OCR. It's just segmenting that to small regions and then trying to find similar regions. And so because that's not why it's OCR, some people always confuse it, but it's storing in the same E here as like one template, and that's basically enough. Only like basically it would look the same, all those E's substituted to one template, only to make it nicer, like visually more pleasing, of not looking that copy and pasted together. It can also optionally, you have a lossless factor in your coding scheme. So depending on how lossless or how lossy you want that, you can also encode refinements. Refinements meaning differences. Like, yeah, using this template E, but then some pixels slightly different because, yeah, there's the usual noise and so on. And that's exactly what they use here, refinement coding. And so this refinement coding can use, as you see here, some patterns of OR and XOR and stuff. And those people went as far as using, of course, buffer over and underruns and so on, but they implemented, and this is why I went a little bit into the detail of this, they implemented a whole freaking virtual machine apparently using that, right? So they figured using some exploits, so that is the basic technique here of JBig2, and I think they also wrote somewhere that this is like XPDF based, at least by the way gmalogn. So did they hit here somewhere? Yeah, so apparently this is also crazy, right? Open source, people implement this, and then big mega corporations like Apple, like, hey, we are one of the richest companies, let's just steal, like Steve Jobs famously said, good artists copy and steal and stuff. It's like, yeah, appears to be Apple's proprietary code, but the JBig2 implementation is from XPDF. It's like, dude, what the heck? The biggest, most successful and snappy and UI company and stuff. It's like, yeah, we just steal XPDF's code apparently. So yeah, that is a thing. I, by the way, didn't steal this from XPDF. Implemented this ourselves in Lua, by the way, because buffer overruns, right? But anyway, so this, of course, some sized, undersized buffers and some overflow and some segment list pointers. And so they use this and an extremely huge amount of refinement codings. I think somewhere I saw like 20,000 or something. And it's like, yeah, let's make this Turing complete, right? We don't like, or it's super difficult to exploit this or execute a remote code. It's like, yeah, we just built our own virtual machines. Like, how much time and effort? And that's the crazy thing, that this is even possible. So they also write here, JBig2 as it is flexible, but not as it itself Turing complete, because I mean, obviously it's not like Java or Lua or any other virtual machine thing. It's just a lossless or optional lossless image coding and encoder, ISO standard. So of course they need to use this buffer overflows here to further perform logic operations on memory at arbitrary out of bounds offsets here. So it's original page buffer and unbound page and so on. Memory layout. So you can now provide as input a sequence of JBig2 segment commands, which implement a sequence of logic bit operations to apply to the page. And since the page buffer has been unbound, those bit operations can operate on arbitrary memory. So yeah, 2021, people, hackers and crackers, and hack as a login as a service for rich state actors. It's like, yeah, YOLOing their own virtual machines. Like, yeah, Java is so 2000, year 2000. Let's arbitrary virtual machine out of JBig2 segment command. It's like, dude, I rest my case. I mean, I expected a lot and stuff, but there's also like, you really can't make this up. Also, I really wonder, I mean, I wonder if someone like did they intentionally make this so complex just to show them a finger of like YOLO because we can? It's like, I mean, how much energy, time and effort do you need to, also like imagination of like, what, I mean, I would actually go as far as this is art. I mean, leave me in the comments below, but seriously, like exploiting an image codec like this is like, seriously, it cannot be more beautiful, become more beautiful like this. Should we hang this like a Mona Lisa into some computer science museum? Leave in the comments below. Crazy stuff. So if you were thinking Edward Snowden and stuff, previous years and all the revelations, like, yeah, welcome to 2021. That is the new state of the art. Speaking of which, previously, I think even this week, we shouted out here log4j vulnerability, and it's like, yeah, second log, because obviously log4j vulnerability doesn't come alone. The looks like apparently the patch for the first vulnerability was incomplete, right? It's like, yeah, we discussed this previously, so yeah, the patch was of course not patched enough. Also, this was a feature, right? I should have pointed this more out in the previous video there in the history. It's like, yeah, it wasn't really a bug, right? It was like a feature designed to do execute exactly that, and that's what it did. So the new vulnerability comes with its own number because obviously, so that is after attempting to patch and mitigate CVE 2021 44228, the new vulnerability is 4505046. Says the fix to, yeah, Apache released already incomplete and certain non-default configurations, aka you were obviously using that wrong, especially as this was already a feature. But no, that is not yet all. We have more. Security firm Blue Mirror discovers major new log4j attack vector. Also, I mean, seriously, can we already stop using hundreds of thousands of lines over complex logging libraries? So basic JavaScript, because yeah, the complexity is the source of all evil here in this kind of security context. Trusted compute base. I tell this all my friends and customers, but also most people don't want to listen, right? You tell them trusted compute base complexity and stuff, and they're like, yeah, YOLO, whatever, we got this, right? We need logging and more of it. It's like, yeah. Basic JavaScript WebSocket connection can trigger local log4j remote code attack via drive-by compromise. Wonderful, truly wonderful. They write here even at David. So it does rain, but it pours. Previously, one assumes 10 out of the 10 out of 10 log4j of security vulnerability was that it was limited to exposed vulnerability servers. You were wrong. Security company claims to have found a new exciting, yes, exciting, right? As exciting as this channel, which you probably want to share, like, and subscribe for. Yeah, don't take your, if you work with this stuff, probably don't take next weekends off. Instead, patch. Maybe also someone on Twitter was already joking. I posted this to our Discord server. It's like cron tab, right? Every 5 minutes, up, get, install log4j latest versions. Like, yeah. But that is not yet all. Looks like apparently, according to tweets here, log4j can also be leveraged. Even more trouble to use to steal. So yeah, can be leveraged to remote code execution, but it's even easier. Like if that was not easy enough, it's even easier and trouble to use to steal AWS credentials or other sensitive environment variables over DNS, apparently, according to this potentially here. Yeah, that is a thing. Also a thing in more amazing news, turns out, according to those tweets here, the PS4 crypto core processor, which we certainly love very much from the P3 and other such Intel and AMD crypto core processors, are also amazing stuff always, right? The crypto boot and core processor, also Nintendo Switch, right, and everything else. Is interface and secure kernel had a bug that allowed them to dump, or better saying brute force, key slots from SAMU. That's how AES HMAC keys from PFS, potential keys, VTRMS, so keys could be retrieved on unpatched firmware. So that sounds amazing. Probably even more homebrew and side loading and stuff. And someone was already joking. I mean, first of all, this Intel and AMD stuff also constantly broken. And why do we even still try? Maybe the problem is, of course, even RISC-V is like Sci5, High5 is doing that now with crypto core processor and boot signature stuff. And you have to wonder, if the stuff is constantly broken, why do we even still bother, right? I would argue, well, the thing is, of course, like companies like Nintendo for their DRM, also for the user, right? For the activists like in Saudi Arabia or Russia or China and US and stuff, you anyway have your login as a service 0-day companies. And so all those claims of it's for the security, right? For the whistleblowers, it's like, yeah, thank you very much. And so even in that case, right, they are hacked anyway with 0 days in your JBig2 PDF code left and right and stuff like that. And for other people at home, like I mean, most people don't need that. I mean, stuff like browser needs to be secure, but this crypto code processes for verifying the boot chain the problem is, of course, it's mostly used, it's not used for the security of the users, it's mostly used against the users, right? Like the PS3, PS4, PS5, Xbox, Nintendo Switch. It's, of course, mostly used that you cannot use the personal computer, aka game console or iPhone, like God forbid you would install your Android on an iPhone. Oh, yeah. And for the profits, right? So this is usually not used, and I said this before, in my opinion, if you buy something, like if you don't rent it or lease, but if you buy it, like you buy a PS3, PS4, you buy a freaking iPhone, you buy an iPad with M1, right? An iPad Pro, why can't you install your own operating system in there? But yeah, this stuff like crypto coprocessor, especially in the early boot stages, like secure boot, mostly against the user, as far as we've seen. And then it takes like efforts from the community. You want homebrew or Linux on your precious PS4 or PS5 or Xbox. It's like it takes years and years of the community to break the crypto, which usually they break. And then it's a point, well, at best, I mean, it is annoying and time-consuming stuff. At best, it's holding of homebrew and Linux and BSD and other OS for some years. Similar to the iPhone. And the question becomes a little bit, is this even something we should support, that we should shout out, that we would want, right? Should it be a requirement for your personal computer, be that a Windows PC or a Mac OS PC with M1 or stuff? And should it not be for the user that they can install whatever they want, right to fully own your device and install whatever operating system you feel like you want to run on it for productivity and stuff? And people already commented on our previous RISC-V video. It's like, yeah, they are disappointed that Sci-Fi Hi-Fi is doing crypto coprocessor stuff and boot verification stuff on their RISC-V CPUs, and they wanted RISC-V for freedom, and now they're disappointed that they also start with the same stuff. So yeah, the problem with that is we usually find them over the last decades, they usually were broken, usually sooner than later. So the question becomes a little bit, is it even worth to add this, right? Is it worth the silicon? Is it worth our security researchers and programmers of Homebrew and other OS? Should this be outlawed to like lock devices out from the user's full use? And is this or is it like totally in the society waste of resources to hack this to fully use your device to your own potential? Or yeah, also hardware-wise, wasting all this hardware that could be something useful, and it's just another broken crypto coprocessor. For the security, I would even argue, because you can't, I would even argue in general, you can't, usually don't use this crypto coprocessor stuff for really high security, because you can't verify them, right? You can't, I mean, unless you take a raster electron microscope or stuff and analyze this on a gate level, which obviously at 7 nanometer or 5 nanometer is a little bit excessively and expensive and stuff, and certainly nobody is doing this, maybe not even the NSA. Would surprise me if they do that on this level. So given that you can't verify that this is really secure, doesn't have a backdoor and other bugs and features and stuff, you can't even use this, in my opinion, for serious work. And we saw also that recently the AMD implementation for secure virtual machines was also compromised in a similar way. Last but not least, documents leak Huawei links Huawei to Chinese surveillance program. Also, by the way, does it maybe? Yeah, you probably want to subscribe there. So yeah, no surprise there. Just shouting out the obvious. Does it surprise someone? It's like, yeah, super top secret guess, right? I mean, who would have guessed that China's giant, maybe number one, probably number one, or Huawei Technologies, long brushed off questions about. So yeah, they but as usual, right? Even similar to US, even we have seen the Edward Snowden slides, Apple, Microsoft, Google, Yahoo, and stuff. But similar, Huawei, of course. If you ask them regarding questions on the role of Chinese state surveillance, like yeah, YOLO, whatever, we have nothing to do with that, or actually we can't answer whatever. The usual placeholder answer is there, but we are just selling general purpose network gear, right? Obviously, but according to the review here by the Washington Post, more than 100 Huawei PowerPoint presentations marked as confidential suggest that the company has had a broader role in tracking China's popular than it has acknowledged. And these marketing presentations posted posted to a public-facing Huawei website before the company removed them late last year. It's like marketing presentations for state surveillance shows Huawei's pitch how its technology can help government authorities identify individuals by voice, monitor political individuals of interest, manage ideologic re-education and labor schedule for prisoners, help retailers track shoppers using facial recognition. Also, yeah, Brave New World, right? 1984, coming full circle here. Edward Snowden's papers already getting old, and here we are, Huawei, yeah, but I mean, not unlike what Google and Facebook collect from their users, but obviously Huawei is like, hey, we have here some nice advertising slides, right? Don't you want to track individuals by voice, interest, and yeah, stuff. It's like, yeah. Huawei has no knowledge of the project mentioned in the Washington Post report, the company said in a statement after the Post shared some of the slides with Huawei representatives to seek comment. Like all other major service providers, Huawei provides cloud platform services that comply with common industry standards. It's like, yeah, similar to recurring stuff. Do we have here more? The new details on Huawei's surveillance products come with growing concerns in China and around the world about consequences of pervasive facial recognition and other biometric tracking, as we're currently shouted out here live on this channel. Last but not least, this COVID stuff still going on, and certainly here in the old world, in the center of Europe, things also don't go too well. And this is also, people always want more, what is that word that I constantly forget that, productivity, right? More productivity, most productivity. And we now have computers, right? We now have freaking smartphones, everything's amazing. And then even in Germany, the country where I'm from, this is so ridiculous, right? Previously known as quality high-tech nations, and now all the bureaucracy stuff, they are still using face smile transmissions, right? How can they in 2020, I would even say how can they in 2010, right? But in 2020, 2021, German authorities allegedly, according to newspaper stuff, they're using old-fashioned analog, although maybe these days digitalized ISDN and voice over IP line, analog-like face smile transmissions. I mean, not that you would, and they have to report those tables of like here infected cases and stuff and tracing and stuff. It's like no wonder that they can't track and can't manage that if you still work with a paper trail, right? And it's like, yeah, you don't get this because your face my paper stack is empty and stuff. It's like, yeah, 2021 and the government, everything productivity and stuff, and the government is still working with antiquated measures there, and not, yeah, that is a state of government, right, in the old world, or probably all over the world, unfortunately. And crazy stuff here, as this, of course, Austria, not Germany, but close enough. And similar stuff of, they didn't even use face smile there, but they found that people had access to sensible information, including the registered address of living, massive security vulnerabilities in the central corona registry, exposes all data in Tyrol here at least. And so this is crazy stuff, right? We and the government wants backdoor access, right? Recurring theme here, all the governments want that constantly and breaking crypto, right? The government wants to tell us they need to break crypto against child pornography and other stuff also. I mean, probably it is, I mean, how likely is it, right? So this argument, I also wanted to point out, I mean, it's a complete bullshit argument, right? How many people I mean, unless you work in the Catholic Church, apparently, which most people obviously don't do, and that number is declining. But if you're not related to the Catholic Church, I mean, how likely is it to get in touch with issues with child pornography stuff, right? You need to be really some special kind of influence there in this church stuff. And so, like, everything is more likely, right? And so the government wants to, for the safety of the children, and by the way, for the safety of the children, maybe don't glue in Apple batteries that you need to pry out so that they look like that. For the safety of the children, by the way, maybe enforce user swappable batteries. But for the safety of the children and terrorism, we need to build crypto and stuff, break crypto and have backdoors, and we can't have security because the children. And on the other side, the government is exposing all the recurring theme, right? Health data, other registration data, voter registration data. We've seen this Austria, Germany, India, USA. I mean, basically all over. It's becoming so repetitive that I didn't even do this breaking IT news shows the last months because it's so repetitive the same. But here we are, 2021, and the government runs obviously databases with so inappropriate systems that recurring theme, right? I think even, by the way, somewhere, I think, I'm not sure if it was that case, but I read somewhere the last days, by the way, not only COVID, but also HIV, syphilis, malaria, and other stuff was registered there. By the way, somewhere I read, maybe this was another case than this, or was it this case? Somewhere they outsourced that and they emailed, like, maybe, I think it was also Austria, I'm not sure if it was this, maybe it was similar to this. So many cases, can't even keep track of myself anymore. But so basically, they, I think it was on to shout this out here. Here, is it the same case? No, this was not the case. Oh no, this was this case. So, yeah, probably was this case. So they outsourced that, they emailed the password to the database unencrypted. Also, yeah, how is the government? They want a backdoor and then they email the account data unencrypted to outsource, was it to Bulgaria or was it here outsource? Somewhere, doesn't even matter where. And they even outsourced it back to some small company in Vienna or something. This is so crazy, right? And yeah, so yeah, the government should not get backdoors, and yeah, it sets the state of security, recurring theme. But yeah, how do you need backdoors if you can just build your virtual machine in unbound JPEG2 image buffers? That's basically it for this week. I hope you like this and learn something, especially that you can build virtual machine out of JPEG2 image pixel operations. I hope you appreciate the return of the broken IT news here. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you want to see more, we could probably continue after this video in another live stream working on testing our T2 for obviously, hopefully, more security and stuff in the future. So otherwise, if you have any input, always looking forward to your input, news input, whistle-blowing stuff of broken and insecure stuff over the world. Otherwise, I hope to see you soon for more fun code stuff to come.